Man, that sounds good. Billy Strings and his band. Beautiful songs, happy sounding songs about loss and prison and meth. Right? I didn't make that up.
No, that's true.
No.
Yeah, you heard it here.
Well, listen, I really appreciate the fact that you're sort of stepping out as a songwriter, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I want to get to the beginning. You know, so I understand that you're named after your grandfather, Grandpa Bill.
Yeah, I was born on his birthday.
Yeah.
We were a resident of Kentucky at the time. My family lived in Moorhead, and my mom and dad and stuff traveled up for Grandpa's birthday, and of course I decided to show up then. Apparently they were all in the garage kind of picking and singing, and my mom was, not taking part.
Yeah.
And I decided to show up,
Her water broke at a jam session, as I understand it, yeah.
It's kind of like that. I guess I wanted to come pick a few, but...
Yeah, a little early.
Yeah.
He was ready. Was your grandfather a musician too? Was he a...
He played with his thumb until it turned black, and he would sing like, Angel, and he would sing like old country songs, you know. Let's see, you don't have to call me darling. He would sing that, and yeah.
But your dad was your musical sort of mentor,
and my grandpa loved my dad. If my dad was over, Grandpa would have, you gotta sing this song and this one and that one, and he'd have him singing all night, and feeding him, getting them all going.
Yeah. And so when you're a kid, and your dad, as I understand it, was, as I mentioned earlier, was a fan of Doc Watson and Norman Blake and Stanley Brothers, and could sing all that stuff too. And so were you just going along in the same kind of musical path, or were you sort of veering off in some ways when you were a kid?
Well, when I was a kid, from the time I was born to the time I was about 7 or 8 years old, it was Doc Watson was all I really, I didn't hear Pearl Jam or Led Zeppelin or anything until later. I was spoon-fed Doc Watson as a boy, and also, Bill and Lester and Earl and all that, and no, it was because my dad is my hero and my best friend and my mentor. If he wore Levi's, I wore Levi's. If he wore a ball cap, dang it, I wore a ball cap too. Mm-hmm. And if he put his on backwards, I'd turn mine around. He put his capo on his headstock like that. I did that. I just wanted to be just like my dad, because I saw, even at a young age, we'd have people over at the house, picking and singing, and I'd just be getting ready to go play with my toy cars or whatever. But every once in a while, I noticed my dad in the kitchen, and everybody standing around with a beer and singing along, and he's just, singing till his face turned red, and he's just like, he really is the life of the party, and everybody is so glad that he's there, and there's so much joy. And I just was like, man, my dad is incredible, and I want to do that. I want to learn how to play like him. That's what I want to do.
That's cool. And it's also, I don't know if you know, but actually that's not most people's experience.
What do you mean?
They're like, my dad is, I want to do whatever my dad doesn't do. A lot of people go, I mean, it's actually an unusual thing, but sweet. I like it.
My parents are cool.
Yeah, I get it.
They're cool, man. They showed me cool records.
Yeah.
When I was 7 years old, I remember there were two huge moments in my life. One was when my dad sat me down and said, okay, I knew about Doc Watson, but he showed me Doc and Dog. He sat me down and said, this is David Grisman. You need to know this. And I was just about 7 years old. He did the same thing a little bit later with Black Sabbath when I was old enough. And it scared the heck out of me, But that's when all that started. I got into Jimi Hendrix and stuff. And when I was 11, he got me a little Strat with a pig nose amp. And then...
Wild.
Then off I went to Blues Guitar Land, Johnny Winter,
Yeah, wild. That's wild. So let's talk a little bit about the post-teenage years, because I'm sure you went deep into that world. You're in high school and you're playing music, and you probably are. Do you remember any of your band names from high school?
Oh yeah, one was A Day of Moments. One was Two Once Darkened Skies.
to one. That sounds kind of ominous and obscure.
Yeah.
To
We
one
all
star.
had
These guys-
we all had black hair,
Yeah, that's wild.
and it was headbanging, thrashing,
Wild.
hardcore, man. It was fun.
Well, so I just want to come back to the songwriting piece. I have an image in my mind. I want to come back to the songwriting piece because, as I mentioned at the top, you know, your songs are about people going to prison, and people, you know, the title song, you know, Turmoil and Tinfoil, talking about lighting the meth pipe, and you know, so was that the world you were around, and that's what was going on around you?
I was exposed to some substance abuse when I was younger, yeah, and you know, I think you are if you live in small town America. If you live in a tiny little town where there's nothing to do, that's kind of what happens. And so, yeah, I was exposed to some of that. And a lot of my friends kind of went down. You know, I was pretty close to kind of going down the wrong path myself, but music gave me something to focus on and kind of like, you know, I just saw where everybody was headed. And I don't want to do that. I want to do good. I want to focus on something. So I just started buckling down and really practicing on my guitar. And
Yeah. Did that cost you some relationships and friends in school? Did you have to like
No.
part ways with people, or?
You know, I don't. No, not at all. You know, I won't go out and hang out with certain people. But if somebody's around, I don't care what anybody does. You know, I don't have to partake. You know,
Right. Yeah.
I don't. It's whatever, man.
But it's interesting that so now, you know, coming into, because you've been so focused on the picking, you've been so focused on the playing,
Yeah.
that this is really an important step for you to be a songwriter,
So,
putting your songs out there.
And the reason I guess that is happening is because I can't really come to write a song about something that I don't really know about, or if I feel like I'm kind of faking it. So that's why, you know, I've ended up writing about stuff that I sort of feel strongly about. And I grew up in a town called Ionia. There's 7 prisons there, you know. There's
Wow.
like 3 stoplights, you know. I knew people that ended up locked up. I knew people that overdosed. I knew people that kind of, you know, a lot of my friends went there. High school was weird, man.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because as a songwriter, you know, what you're talking about, rural life, bluegrass music, bluegrass songs are all, they've always been connected to that small town sort of rural scene. And instead of moonshine and murder, it's just a different, you know, it's still a prison song.
Exactly. And
You know?
Dust in a Baggie is that same thing. It's basically the formula is an old school bluegrass song. I mean, I said if I would have listened to Mom and Dad, I wouldn't have been here today.
Right.
I said they call me by a number, not a name. And I just switched moonshine out with meth, a modern day epidemic, because it's 2018 and, you know, I mean, we still get moonshine, but it's okay now.
I don't know. Hey man, you're in Colorado, just so you know. There's a lot of stuff that's okay now.
Yeah, I know, and that's great.
In case you just tuned in, you're listening to eTown. I'm here with Billy Strings. The one thing I do want to mention and ask you about, I guess, is I don't think any bluegrass singer or songwriter would have had the courage to include a tune like Spinning or a recitation like Spinning as you did on your record.
It's risky.
It's risky, but it's also must be important to you to share that story. So, it's basically the saga of your psychedelic journey and what you learned on that. So,
that's exactly what it is, and that's all that it is. I think, I was enlightened to some stuff, and I was I always wanted to do like a spoken word track, and I was just I told that story to my close friends all the time. You know, people that I think need to hear it almost, and. So I decided to maybe, just make some weird sound effects and just tell that story like it was. And so, yeah, I think it is super risky, but I don't know. There's nobody here to tell me what I can or can't put on my records, so.
I think, well, and also just to the Cliff Notes abbreviated version of this amazing journey with this female form where her skirt's made out of eyeballs and then ears and then teeth. And
I'll tell you all about it, man.
Yeah. But I mean, the beautiful thing is she takes you on this journey through all the universes and back into our universe and around our planet. And then she shows you in this grain of sand that this energy is still spinning and that we're all connected.
It's all the same, yeah. We're all part of this one big thing, and we think we're kind of special because we stand up and have opposable thumbs, but really, we're not. And we need to learn how to exist.
Yeah, and And I think that what's so cool, because when you do step out as a songwriter and you're on stage and you're developing an audience, there is that opportunity that you have to both entertain and amaze and inspire, but also to engage and in some ways, connect with people and help them aim a little higher.
Yeah.
And I know you have that in you to try to make things better in some way.
I do want to try to do that. Yeah, we were just talking about that backstage. You mentioned a songwriter that wrote a song called "Put the Gun Down," or
Citizen Cope, yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of was thinking about that. I'm always thinking about that, man. We need to be writing songs. We need to, and if anything, if I'm out here playing 200 gigs a year, I'm not doing it to try to make money or to try to, I kind of want to do something positive.
Right.
And the only thing I have is my guitar to fight back against all that ugliness. So that's what we do, We try to just bring joy, the way my dad did at the little house parties,
Yeah. Well, it's a winning formula to get out there and try to make something good happen, and to have the talent and the opportunity and the drive, and to have a great band with you too. These guys are really great.
These guys are freaking amazing.
Yeah. Well, listen, I am impressed, young Billy Strings. We've been hanging around a little bit these last few years.
We love you, man.
Thank you. Love you too. We're going to get back to music. Welcome back, if you would, Billy Strings.
Thank you.
And his band.